Few things to dig into here when it comes to this census question. You know, they're not really asking people if they are, necessarily their legal status. So why is this such a big deal?
It's a huge deal, Brandon. It's because this administration attempted to add this question and put it behind the Voting Rights Act, which was clearly seen as contrived by the Supreme Court. 5-4 ruling. Chief Justice John Roberts stated that you could. Essentially, the first portion of the case, the Supreme Court was with the government saying that under the enumerations clause of the Constitution, you can collect information about citizens for a legitimate purpose. The issue is the government lied about that. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross came in his office, immediately said that he wanted to add a census question, but later on came and found a way to get around some of the requirements of the census question.
Now, this census question there, you just kind of broke down the Supreme Court decision. John Roberts actually surprising people with the way he cited himself. How would this census question actually hurt immigrant communities? Well,
it could potentially impact participation in communicating with this census. People are in households with those that are afraid. We saw the ICE raids a couple of weeks ago. People are afraid of their own government coming into their home, asking them questions, don't know the motive of why are you coming into homes. And so it could potentially impact appropriations. It could potentially impact how districts are formed, especially in blue states right here, Illinois, New York, California, also a purple state like Texas.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to that there. J.B. Pritzker, he has been making a big local push in terms of trying to make sure more people are counted in the census. What is at stake there for him? Is this a victory for J.B. Pritzker?
This is potentially a victory for him, but this is not over yet, Brandon, because this is going to get kicked back to the courts because this is a very narrow ruling. Now, Wilbur Ross can come up with a new decision and come up with a legitimate reason, but right now there's been uncovered that the Republican strategist that came up with some of the reasoning behind this put in some of his daughter, he was an estranged daughter, found something in his files that basically stated that there was some maybe discriminatory purpose into why this administration was attempting to do this in the first place. So it's going to go back to the Equal Protection Clause potentially in the Supreme Court as opposed to a narrow ruling and looking at the enumerations clause of the Constitution.
And kind of from a larger perspective, you see issues like this with the census question. You had the ICE raids or the threat of ICE raids recently. When it comes to trust between the immigrant communities and the government itself, has it completely eroded? Is there any chance of repair?
See, it's bigger than just the immigrant community. It's actually the Latino community and as a whole. In terms of family members, you have people that are living with legal and maybe those that are not necessarily legal citizens, but they also have this administration talk about ways to delegitimize certain citizens as well. So you have those of all walks of life in that culture really on pins and needles about what this administration is going to do to impact their rights and their way and live in this country.
You mentioned the census question. It's far from over, even though the Supreme Court has made a decision. What's some predictions you have as to what's going to happen next year?
Well, the prediction is this census potentially could be pushed back. This administration has a self-imposed deadline of July 1st to be done with the census and get it out, and so they can get it available to the public and actually get on with collecting information for the census itself, potentially maybe pushing it back to October, but that's yet to remain to be seen. But this fight is still going in the courts.
All right, definitely something to keep on top of and follow. We're going to continue to cover that as it continues to be a discussion.